this little collection of monofilament and sinkers and swivels and so on that I have here is what we call in Canterbury a sea run trout rig. And this is a typical rig that's used with the Canterbury lure rod. The reason we use a string or chain of sinkers rather than a single large sinker is because it's much less inclined to become tangled, on big stones on the bottom. How I've done this is I've doubled over a length of 20-pound monofilament. I know that sounds quite heavy, but you've got to bear in mind these are big sea run trout. You can use 15-pound if you wish. But anyway, bearing in mind you can also catch salmon and you're in fast water, so you don't want to go too light. Anyway, I've taken a 3.6 metre length of 20-pound monofilament and then doubled it over. I put the end of that loop through the end of the last swivel and I've tied a double clinch knot. So I've taken a 3.6 metre length of 20-pound monofilament, doubled it over, poked the end through the last swivel, and then I've tied a double clinch knot. And then I've allowed 4 or 5 millimetres of tag end that I've threaded back through. You don't want any longer than that. In fact, you could have probably possibly a wee bit shorter. And this has the advantage, of course, that even if one of those snaps off or becomes broken, the other leader, the trace rather, will be held on there just as strongly. As I say, there's always the possibility that you get a big salmon in the gut in quite fast water, and it'll head off. The first place it'll head is straight down the gut towards the surf and be very difficult to control. I've tied 2 feathered lures on the other end of these traces and I've staggered them. So I've got one at 1.4 metres and I've got the other one at 1.7, and I've tied each of these on with a uni knot. So what that looks a bit like when you see the thing going through the water is it looks like the lures are staggered, or if you like, one bait fish is following behind the other about a foot behind, or about 30 centimetres behind the other one. When you've got this rig, the potential difficulty, of course, is if you have you're fishing and one gets into a mess or gets tangled up in a knot, or breaks off, or gets tangled up on a stick and you lose one of the lures or whatever. You want to be able to get fishing again as quickly as you can. One of the best ways I've found to do this is to take this rig and then to wrap it round a cardboard tube. Now you'd normally do this by taking the leads off, by disconnecting them at the last swivel. And just in this case, I'm going to show you that you can get away without doing that, just as a quick demonstration. What I'll do is I'll drop the leads down the inside. But anyway, we'll wrap this round now, the double, keeping a bit of tension on as I go. Oops, now I caught the end of the lead. I'll wrap that round all the way up to the lures. And then when I get to the feathered lure, what I'm going to do is simply push the barb into the cardboard. Push the barb in like that, and then continue on with the other one, remember, which is about a foot behind the first one, and push that one in. Give it a good push in. And you can see there's one of the advantages straight away to using the rabbit lures instead of using feathers, is that the feathers would be more inclined to break in that situation when you're wrapping them around there. They don't necessarily break, but they're more inclined to break. So anyway, I've got this rig here in my bag, or on my quad bike, and so if I have a bust off, I can very quickly come along and then reverse, unhook those two off, unspin it, and tie another one on and be fishing again within just a couple of seconds.